Hello, welcome back to another video, episode 6 of the Boxing Podcast. Today, delighted to be joined by Jason Murphy, first guest on the podcast. How are we, Jason? You well?
I'm good. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. We'll crack into the 5v5 shortly and lots of other things to cover. Picked a good episode to come on, to be fair. We're not going to be short of talking points today. But before we start, mate, just tell us about you. I know we spoke off camera, obviously, and we've exchanged a few DMs on X, but you've got quite an extensive boxing background, obviously.
Yeah, so I say I boxed myself. I boxed as an amateur briefly. Wasn't really committed to the cause as such. I like the prestige of being known as a boxer, but didn't have the commitment. I didn't train like I should, and I was drinking and smoking, etc. But my younger brother, or my youngest brother, Femi was a elite level amateur. He was part of the England setup with who was in his year group, Matthew Macklin, Paul Smith, Martin Murray. So I've always sort of been brought up in and around gyms, sort of amateur boxing gyms. My brother, as I said, was an international amateur, ABA champion, or ABA junior champion, should I say, turned over pro. He was the English super featherweight champion, boxed for the British, so boxed at a pretty high level. So I've sort of always been in and around boxing gyms. I've got friends that are current pros and ex-pros, etc. So I've always been a massive fight sports fan. I follow boxing, MMA. I had the original UFC 1, UFC 2 videos, which some of the audience won't even know what a video cassette is. So I've always been, I go to a lot of events, or have been to a lot of events, but I'm also one of the guys that will sit in a dark room by myself watching an obscure fight in Puerto Rico at 3 a.m. I've always been a massive fight sports fan.
Cool, excellent, mate. That's some background as well. I can definitely relate to the dark room watching obscure fights in the middle of nowhere. We all live for that kind of thing, don't we?
Love it.
Yeah, got lots to cover then. So we'll crack straight on with the 5v5. We'll go in the running order. So Willie Hutchison versus Craig Richards kicked the night off in Saudi Arabia. Be truthful. Who did you predict to win that beforehand?
Craig Richards.
Yeah, likewise.
Craig Richards. If I'm honest, I was talking to my son before, during, and after, and we were both, without sounding disrespectful, I was really disappointed with the Craig Richards that turned up. He just looked, for me, flat, sort of void of ideas. What wasn't working for him in sort of the first 3 or 4 rounds, he didn't seem to change it up. I don't know whether he was waiting for Willie Hutchinson to fatigue, maybe. And the switch hitting really seemed to cause him a problem. He set himself, and I kept waiting for him to sort of press and catch, and it just never came. Great performance from Willie, but for me, it was more off the back of Craig Richards not turning up.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that was the basis of a lot of Shane McGuigan's corner talks as well. Hutchison slowing down, being tight. He did visibly slow down, in the latter half of the fight. But, obviously, yeah, exactly. Big step up for himself. Obviously, he's stopped by Lennox Clark, and he'd had 4 KO wins since. Never been past 7 before that either. So, I personally scored the fight 10-2. To win.
Yeah, it wasn't close. I'm a massive Craig Richards fan, and I think personally, I think I picked it based on who I liked and who I preferred, but also based on experience. I thought Craig Richards, I thought he had enough left. I don't know whether last night was just a bad performance or whether he has sort of hit that peak level. Because I mean, he went toe to toe with Bivol. It was a close fight. He's boxed a lot of the top, British, Buatsi and the like, and they've always been fairly close fights. But last night just wasn't close, and I didn't see Hutchinson in any sort of trouble at any point in that fight. He seemed completely in control.
Yeah, there was a brief wobble, wasn't there? Like I think Craig kind of essentially had a last stand in the 11th round, and then Willie was able to get on his bike, did a bit of showboating in the last round, and kind of just saw it out essentially in the end. But Craig Richards just didn't seem to want to throw the right hand. Probably played with inactivity as well. He hasn't been the most active. He's 34. Hutchison's a fresh 25. Probably factors that I guess before the fight, we're a bit ignorant to not assume. But all credit, like you say, to Willie Hutchison, career best performance on a big stage.
I think he proved a lot of people wrong. I think he proved that he can box. He was holding his feet at certain points and sort of trading and coming off better. I didn't like the turning his back. A lot of people slate Ben Whittaker for that. Sort of turning away. But you could see with Hutchinson, I think a couple of points last night, he was sort of doing that to catch a breath, turning his back, walking away, having a little look, coming back, pop shotting. But the way he switches stances and he seems to be as strong from both stances I wasn't really impressed. I mean, I've always known him be a good fighter. I've seen him come through the amateur ranks. He's one of, I think, Scotland's most decorated amateurs. I think.
Billy Nelson was saying that the other day about how decorated he is, and obviously he probably hasn't just had the platform. Essentially, I know he's been promoted by Frank for a while, but Shelley Finkel's his manager. He's going to get big opportunities, I think, now with the backing of Frank Warren and Shelley Finkel.
I think so. I think for me, I'd like to see him in with somebody like Dan Aziz.
That'd be a good fight.
Sort of fringe world level, because I know Craig Richards is sort of fringe world level, but going back to something you said, the fact that Craig Richards has been so inactive sort of takes him out of that world level. I know you don't lose your skills.
That wasn't Craig Richards, was it, last night that we've been used to?
Not for me. I think Craig Richards, off the back of that, will either retire or the next fight we see from Craig Richards will be a totally different sort of fighter, because last night he just didn't turn up for me.
100%. So for me, I think that's a great shout on Dan Aziz actually next for Hutchinson. They'll want to push him on now, won't they, for sure?
You have to off that. You have to. It was on the, other than Usyk Fury the other week, I think that's the biggest, most anticipated card of the year. A lot of eyeballs on that. Everybody I've spoken with, even not sort of non-boxing fans,
the casuals and
that. So he's got to go straight in again. Give him a couple of weeks off, back in the gym. Let's have him out again. But, maybe, I don't know whether he could justify holding his own card as a main event against an Aziz or maybe Lennox Clark in a rematch. Was that at super middle? I think that was at super middle.
Yeah, it was. He's moved up since then, hasn't he? Yeah, he didn't want to blame the weight, I don't think, but it's clear to see that he's a much stronger and better fighter at 175.
100%. I mean, he did get bashed a couple of times last night, and it didn't even make him take a step backwards. Other than when he was looking for cardio recovery, I don't think he was in any kind of trouble in terms of getting hurt. Like you say, he had a little wobble, but I think that was more to do with fatigue than sort of being buzzed.
Never been past 7, so for sure that probably was playing in him and his corner.
Looked good. He looked really good. His engine looked decent. His engine looked decent, and he seemed to manage his cardio. There were a couple of times where I thought he'd tried to finish Richards, and I thought, oh, here we go. He's going to struggle now. But he did his little walk away, and his cardio recovery seemed to come back. I was impressed.
Yeah, got a set of stones on him as well. Wasn't afraid to fight fire with fire at times. I'm sure his corner were delighted with him in that sense. But really good performance. Excited to see what's next for Willie Hutchison. 1-0 to Queensberry to start the night. Moving into, for me, the fight of the night. Absolutely on the edge of the seat stuff for 12 rounds. Ray Ford defending his WBA strap against Nick Ball. What a fight. Obviously, 7-5 for 2 judges to Ball, 7-5 for the other for Ray Ford. Just shows really good cards, to be honest. Just shows you how close it actually was. I personally scored it a draw. I was delighted for Nick Ball, and I probably scored it wrong, but I scored it 6-0. It was razor close. I thought Ford was really clean. I thought at the start of the fight, the first couple of rounds, I thought Ford's body work was absolutely immense. Then he abandoned it. And then Nick Ball really came on so strong. Ford was sitting on the ropes a lot. Ball's combinations were just starting to kind of overwhelm him. He throws that uppercut from like the weird angle, and Ford just didn't seem to be able to get out of the way of it. And obviously then, I think it was round 6 where Ford landed a really nice left hand and followed it up, and Ball seemed to be just momentarily wobbled, nothing major, but that seemed to be the catalyst to then turn the fight back into Ford's
Yeah.
favour a little bit. But the ebb and flow, it was absolutely unbelievable. How did you score it, Jason?
I had it 7-5 2 ball.
Uh-huh.
But like you say, it was all. So a lot of Ball's punches were hitting the gloves, and I think I did hear Ford's corner at some point say, "Yeah, you're winning this," but that was after the round that for me that he'd clearly lost. I think the fact that a lot of the punches were hitting his gloves made Ford think, "Well, I'm not getting touched."
Yeah.
Ball was throwing sort of 5 and 6 punch combinations, but catching him with 2 of those 5 or 6. It was catching him with the uppercuts. And he was also throwing like a looping right, but it was sort of turning his fist over and catching him just behind, sort of there, behind the gloves. I also noticed that Ford caught him a couple of times with a sickening uppercut to the sort of midsection underneath his elbows. And I thought, ooh, if he catches him later with that, that'll drop him. And then he just stopped throwing the punch. And it was kind of
Ball was kind of playing. You could tell whenever he caught him with that because Ball would kind of just beckon him on a little bit and give a head shake. And as we all know, that's number one sign from a boxer. Yeah, you got me with that one.
I started getting worried when he was calling him on. I thought, oh, he's hurt now. But
because his nose went, didn't it? Was it like round 7 or 8?
Yeah, just all of a sudden it just went from 0 to 100, and it looked like he was struggling to breathe, and he was wiping it a lot and touching it a lot. And I sort of got a little bit worried towards the back end of the fight where Ford seemed to realise he needed to press, and he seemed to be catching him clean. But wow,
I mean,
Ball's an animal.
It is an absolute savage, chin, heart, engine. His cardio is absolutely off the chain. That man can throw combination haymakers for 12 rounds straight. And, it's like nothing that I've seen in donkeys. His style is like, 5'4", little bull at 126 pounds, and testament to Ford. Ford put in a great performance last night. I think his stock definitely rises from that as well. He looked really calm under the onslaughts from Ball, which can overwhelm people, obviously. But he looked great himself.
Yeah, I would not be averse to seeing that fight again. I would not be disappointed if they made that fight again. I mean, Ball is fantastic, world level. I mean, I think a majority of people that know him believe that he should be world champion anyway from his previous fight, and I think he just instilled in people what a lot of people knew last night, that he's a world-class operator. I think his height puts a lot of people, they think, oh, he's got to get in close. But I think he's deceptively long.
He is.
He were catching Ford last night from range, throwing a loop overhand right. He gets his feet in and out really quick. In, shots off, out. Really good. When I picked Ball anyway, from the off. I just didn't think that Ford had boxed at a high enough level. His previous fight, he was losing heavily and pulled it out. I just didn't see him doing that. I didn't see him knocking or stopping Ball later on. I never thought that Ball, other than a couple of shaky moments, but he found his composure again really quickly, and I just didn't see Ford beating him at all. I didn't see it draw as you did, but I could watch it again and maybe score.
Don't get me wrong. If I was going to lean towards anyone, for sure, Ball banked enough rounds, I think, early on. But again, it's hard to say. You definitely get a better score when you watch it back. I would love to see the rematch, as you would, mate. But Eddie Hearn, I think they were talking about it beforehand as well, and they announced it in the ring. I think Ford's going up to super feather now.
Yeah, he's supposed to
struggling
before. I
think he crashed the weight a little bit. I think he weighed 125.4, which is quite rare to come in 0.6 below. I think, but saying that he looked good for me. The Nick Ball, if he's got to run the Vargas one back in a unification now. I think he should be WBC and WBA champion. But obviously it is what it is. I'd like to see him fight Lopez as well, who obviously beat Josh Warrington and stopped Michael Conlan brutally. I think he's IBF champion. That would be an absolute war. He's a bad man, Lopez. Another one I thought of, I know he's obviously 1-2-2 and he's undisputed, but could you imagine Nick Ball against Inoue? Could you imagine that?
Wow. Well, me and my lad were talking. We were talking about that exact fight, because I think Inoue can make 126 Easy.
I think that's probably the furthest I'd like to see Inoue go, if I'm being honest.
You can't go much further than that. Maybe
what a fight that would be.
But that would be fireworks. The only fear I have for Nick Ball in that fight is Inoue throws an absolutely spiteful uppercut. And as
he's susceptible to an uppercut, isn't he? That's
Ford, I can't. I think when Ford's team look back at last night, they'll be disappointed in themselves for not sticking with that shot, because when he caught him with it, either to the body or to the chin, or it was very, very close to catching him.
Yeah,
I don't know why they went away from that. And I think
just didn't get him properly on, did they?
Yeah, I think if Ball's coming in and Inoue catches him with that, I think it's a different story. But you know, Ball could do good things against Inoue. He's powerful, he's fast. Be a great fight. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight one of the Brits, though. You know, somebody like Warrington. You know, I'm pretty sure they could have that fight in Leeds or Liverpool.
Yeah, for sure. Belt.
And that'd sell out.
It would, for sure. They're dragging that on a bit long as well. This Wood Warrington.
I'm sick of hearing about it.
Just get it on or move on.
Move on.
Last October, I think they fought in the first fight, and obviously that Woods moved up now and vacated the belt that they fought for last night. But you know, that saga is just going on way too long now. But yeah, what a fight! Unbelievable scrap that was. That really, you know, whetted the appetite for what was to come. So 2-0 Queensberry it was after 2 fights, 2 decision wins in the openers. Hamza Shiraz, Queensberry's captain, in against Austin Almo / Tiger Williams. Well, whatever his name was, he's one brave man. He took an absolute slacking in there at moments. You know, hurt Hamza in the second round, I think it was. Just he wasn't ever in massive danger. You know, he actually looked really calm for it as well. That's one thing about Shiraz. You know, he's got the high guard. He's so relaxed in there. You know, and the golfing technique between him and Amo Williams. That jab, obviously him being an orthodox fighter, but he's left-handed. That jab is like an absolute piston. He throws that with bad intentions every time. And once he kind of figured Amo Williams out after a few rounds, it just kind of seemed that obviously the end was inevitable. Amo was very, very tough, but then in round 11, I think he dropped him, didn't he, at the end of the 10th? And then at the 11th, Amo came out with a big onslaught, and then Hamza Shiraz just absolutely
left himself wide open. Yeah, I think there was a point about, I think it was between 5 and 6 or 6 and 7. It panned to Eddie Hearn, and you could see at that point that Eddie Hearn had sort of resided himself to the fact that it was done. It was because I think he really thought Ford would beat Ball, and I think this one, Williams, he really thought that Shiraz would get done. And you could see at some point the total change in Eddie Hearn. You could see that he sort of resided himself to the.
It was the way the fight was going, wasn't it? Amo was in it for a bit, and then as Hearn was off,
the gulf in class, not class, but skill set.
Yeah, technique. You know, 100%.
Hamza Shiraz is absolutely. He reminds me of Paul Williams.
Yes.
On 6'3". I know it's different weight class, but you know, sort of they keep saying about Tommy Hearns, don't they? Slight, slim, tall.
It's crazy. He was at 154 pounds not that long ago. You know, you think that man make him all. Obviously, he's huge at 160. It looked like there was a couple of weight classes between them.
They did. I mean, Williams looked like a welterweight.
He did.
Didn't look like a solid middleweight.
It's actually funny because the Bivol fight came on after that, and I was thinking Hamza Shiraz looked like he dwarfed Bivol. He's what, two weight classes above Shiraz.
Yeah, so it's world title or bust, I think, for Shiraz now.
Yeah, so that was a WBC final eliminator, wasn't it, last night? Yeah. So Carlos Adames is the WBC 160-pound champion. I think they're going to get that next. I think he's ready, to be honest with you.
Back of last night, I think so, yeah. I don't think there's anybody domestically, really, that would justify a fight. I don't think there's anybody that the fans really would be clambering to see him fight up from over here or sort of domestically. Let's put him in there. I think he's ready.
Yeah.
I think he's more than ready. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins that quite easily. I don't want to be sort of dismissing the champion.
Yeah, Adames beat Derevyanchenko. He's a couple of other good wins, but I think they're really high on Shiraz in Saudi. I think Turkey, Al Sheikh really likes him, and I think he's got a bit of a fan base over there.
You could see Turkey's reaction to his win.
Yeah, he was all up, wasn't he? And I think they're looking at him for the Wembley card, aren't they? I think that was spoken about a couple of times. But I've also, I can't remember now who reported it, but I saw it this morning that they're looking at an all British card for Wembley. The only outlier.
Weren't they on about a new fat boxer?
Yeah, a new way was rumored. But I mean, this was just reported on one of the boxing sites this morning. I'd love to remember who reported it, but it was a credible one. And obviously, the only outlier was meant to be Hrgović if he beat Dubois. But obviously, Dubois won. So I was reading, but I don't know how they would fill it with all domestic clashes unless they're doing a domestic fight. I mean, we'll find out on June the 25th when they announce it. But I'd not like to see that. I'd like to see Hamza in his world title fight. I'd love to see a new way. I'd love them to go that direction rather than an all British one.
Me too.
So yeah, that was 6-0 to Queensberry after Hamza dispatched Ammo Williams. The best Matchroom could do at that point was a draw if Hrgović and Wilder both won by KO. In between that sandwich was Dimitri Bivol defending his IBO and WBA light heavyweight titles against Malik Zinad. Dropped him heavy in the first round, a beautiful combination. Zinad did okay after that, to be fair, considering he only had 4 or 5 weeks notice. Yeah. They were giving Bivol the dressing down in the commentary box. I had the DAZN feed on saying, what's going on. He's not stopped anyone in 9 fights. He needs to step on the gas, etc., etc. And then right on cue, stepped on the gas and got rid of him. I think it was in the 6th, wasn't it? He stopped him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Bivol is one of those fighters as well that, if you allow him to coast, he will coast. I don't think, and if a knockout presents itself, we will knock you out. But I don't think it, and ultimately it did in the end. But I thought he looked brilliant, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think he did what he needed to do. He sort of maintained a decent pace. He was never really in any sort of danger. And I think, like you said, he can just coast. He can just go through the gears. And I think he was sort of really comfortable. And then when he wanted to step on it, he sort of notched it up a couple of gears, and his opponent couldn't stay with him. He was just better than him in every sort of aspect. Difference
in levels, and like him and his team said, at the end of the day, they're putting a hard training camp, so it's good to at least stay active and get out. The great thing about what the Saudis do, straight away after the knockout, Turkey Al Sheikh was in the ring, announced October the 12th. We're going to get the undisputed fight that was due to headline the card last night. Bivol Beterbiev reschedule. Cannot wait for that one.
Do you know what? I'm going to be really negative. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Beterbiev's been really injuries, hasn't he?
I don't think Beterbiev is going to be able to fully recover in time.
It came soon, didn't it? It was quite a bad injury he got.
It's a bad injury. I think he tore it completely, and I think stuff like that. I mean, you need a year to fully recover. I mean, it's a serious injury, and Beterbiev will he be 40 by the time they box?
Yeah, he will. Yeah, they've swapped the dates round because October the 12th was like initially penciled in to be Fury Usyk, the rematch, wasn't it? But obviously that fight was so grueling, and that was such a exactly that's such a grueling fight that obviously both men need more time to recover. But like you say, it's no guarantee that Beterbiev will be.
I can't wait. I mean, if it happens, I'm as excited as any other boxing fan because they are the two dominant forces within 175. But I don't want to get too excited and to be disappointed because as we both know, it's this very serious injury. He can't come in there half baked. He's got to be 100%. And for me, it just seems a little bit too soon for a man of his age that throws as hard as he does. And that's why he got that injury because he puts everything into each punch. So I'm skeptical.
Yeah,
but I'm excited as the next person.
Me too. I think that's a fair assessment as well. I had a bit of a nightmare in my predictions. I predicted Craig Richards unanimous decision. I predicted Ball to beat Ball on points. I did predict the Hamza KO, but that wasn't exactly an out there prediction. However, I did predict Daniel Dubois to stop Filip Hrgović.
Yeah,
what what a performance from Dubois. He's taken a lot of stick over the years. He's 26 years old. All the top heavyweights are sort of the back end of their 30s, at least mid 30s anyway, apart from really Joseph Parker and Hrgovic, I guess. Hrgovic couldn't miss with the right hand, could he, at the start of the fight? It's almost kind of like target practice. But, Dubois remained composed. He showed a really good chin, really good fight IQ. Definitely learned from the experiences against Joe Joyce Usyk, and even last time out against Jarrell Miller too. I'm actually delighted for the lad. He's had a hard couple of years, and people have wrote him off. Hrgovic was due to come in and smoke him and get the AJ fight at Wembley. But Dubois cut him with punches. That was confirmed in the commentary. And then obviously was well on his way to putting Hrgovic away. To be fair, obviously
he was beating him.
Stoppage at the end. Hrgovic just seemed to blow his gasket. He looked absolutely spent after 5-6 rounds.
I think Hrgovic underestimated just how
completely
good Dubois.
Completely. All week he was carrying that. Like, sometimes there's a perfect blend of confidence and arrogance, isn't there? But he just had the arrogant side of it. It was like he was asked if Dubois was going to be his toughest fight to date or whatever it may be. He's like, no. He just dismissed Dubois completely.
I heard him say along the lines of, he was sort of, I can't remember who asked him the question, but it was sort of like, he seemed half offended that they would even dare to ask him about Dubois being a tough challenge. And he sort of dismissed it like, nah, I'm going to smash this kid. That's what he said. And I think for me, I've watched boxing for, nearly 40 years now. And there's always been a massive emphasis on undefeated fighters and losses. And I think MMA, and I'm going to use MMA as sort of my benchmark, but fighters that are world champions and seen as Hall of Famers have got 6 and 7 losses.
And made from losses, that's where they get better.
And I think now boxing's starting, or certainly the fan base are starting to see now that you're not defined by losses earlier on in your career. Sure. Dubois, I think, has got out of it. I think for me, he's never had a bad chin. I think what he had was a lack of self-belief and confidence within himself. And I think Don Charles has sort of stripped all that back, given him some better skill sets, and given him the belief in himself that, look, you can take a punch and you just got to stick with the plan. Because like you said, he was getting tagged last night, but he didn't waver from what he was doing. He was pressing on, cutting corners.
He can draw off experience now. He can. He's got the experience of being in the fire. He's dropped 3 times by Kevin Laranga, wasn't he? Like in a few fights ago, and came back to win that one. He has the experience of being hurt, being dropped. He didn't have that. When Joe Joyce stopped him, and in fairness, he had an absolutely horrible orbital break, I think, in that fight as well. When people labelled him a quitter.
I think I gave him a lot of stick at that point.
I'm sure we all did at points for sure. But I think they even said that if he'd have continued to take even more punishment, it would have detached his retina, and could have been.
They've ended up black. It'd have probably ended his career.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a great story, to be honest. And realistically, at 26, he's got like 10, 12, 13 years. He could go on to dominate, which is
he could be
where he was a couple of years ago to where he is now. You have to give him all the credit in the world. It's looking like he's going to land the September 21st main event against AJ.
And you know what? That now for me is a fight.
It is, for sure.
2 years ago,
I won't be intimidated.
No, 2 years ago, that was a walk in the park for AJ.
For sure.
It just blasted him out of there, I think. I think now, if he doesn't blast him out of there in the first 4 or 5 rounds, that is a dogfight, because Dubois, believe it or not, has got pretty fast feet. Last night, I picked Dubois to beat him, to beat Hrgovic, but I wouldn't have been surprised if Hrgovic had beat him 12-0.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Hrgovic on his day is one of the faster heavyweights. He's got great boxing skill. But last night, he just tried fighting Dubois, and Dubois was a better fighter than him. Just a better fighter than him, tougher. And I think, as you said earlier on, regardless of the cut, Dubois looked like he was stepping on it, and Hrgovic didn't look like he wanted it. just looked like he'd blown his load, didn't have much left, and I think it was inevitable that he'd have either got stopped TKO if he hadn't got stopped by the horrendous cut.
For sure, yeah. Shades of the Zhang fight a little bit as well with Hrgovic. You know, sometimes when the going gets tough, it looks like he might not have that in him. That might be an unfair comment by myself, to be fair. But, you know, all credit to Dubois. That's where the praise has to go for that one. Can't wait for that fight on September the 21st if they do announce it. You know, that's going to be an absolute cracker. So, you know, massive that for Dubois and Queensberry. Frank was going absolutely mental at ringside. That was the game over. Yeah.
I think Frank Smith's got to dress as a French maid.
He has, I saw that. Fair play. Fair play. And, you know, we'll come on to how Eddie took it after, because I thought he took it really well. So that was 8-0 to Queensberry heading into the main event of the evening. Wilder against Zhang. You know, I predicted Wilder to win, funnily enough. Again, an amazing prediction by myself. You know, we watched them just pour at each other for kind of 4 or 5 rounds. Wilder just would not throw the right hand. You know, the number 1 and number 3, I think they said, least active fighters in boxing in terms of punch output. That was quite evident to see. Both men very wary of the other man's power, and rightfully so. But as soon as Wilder actually decided to throw a couple of shots in the 5th round, he left himself wide open. Zhang put absolute beauty over the top with the right hand, stumbled him and had a free follow-up shot and just, you know, put Wilder away.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've seen Wilder live. I saw him when he stopped Audley Harrison in about 2013 in Sheffield.
Amir Khan card that was, wasn't it?
I think it was Khan, Julio Diaz. I think
the
card was. It was a really good card. It had Nate Campbell, Terry Flanagan. It was a really good card, but listening to Wilder's punches from ringside, I've never heard punches before and since that sounded like that when they're connected. But I think it's the sort of myth of Wilder. He can't box. Box. I know that sounds stupid coming from a non-professional boxer, and he's a world-level professional boxer. But once, if you can get around staying away from his swinging right hand, he doesn't offer a right lot. And I think he's been found out. And I think he also lacks confidence. I don't see any improvements since he's gone with Malik Scott. I don't think Malik Scott's an elite trainer, and that's no disrespect. Well, I've just dissed him, but what I mean is I don't see any improvements in Wilder. I don't see him coming off the jab. I don't see him setting up punches. I don't see him feinting. And Zhang just literally walks through him.
Yeah, he did. It's funny because Wilder's best weapon was his recklessness and his lack of care for what was coming back. And then these last 2 fights, he's come back with it. He's tentative. The only thing he's worried about is what's coming back, and he won't throw the only thing that's allowed him to win all them fights and have all them knockouts in his career.
Absolutely. And that's not him. That is not Wilder. When he beat Harrison, it was like I think he falls over him at some
just windmilling. There's that famous one against Stavern, the rematch, isn't it, where he's just literally thrown windmills and just lays him clean out.
He just walks towards him. I think the finish, he just walks towards him with his hands down and then just swings. And sparks him. And I think I said from the minute the fight was announced that Zhang would stop him. I had no qualms. And as soon as the fight started, I thought, it's only going to go one way, because you could see.
As soon as Wilder wasn't throwing, that was it.
No, Zhang was worried about Wilder's right hand, obviously, but Wilder looked worried about everything.
Yeah,
he just didn't want to engage. He didn't want to try to beckon him on. It was like Wilder was just waiting to get knocked out.
Yeah, for sure. And you know that he needs to hang them up now. There's no doubt about that. Had a great career for his talents. You know, absolutely fair play to him. I think the funny thing is that DAZN did an interview with Turki Al-Sheikh before the fight, and he was saying his number 1 fight was still AJ Wilder. I'm convinced if Wilder would have knocked Zhang out last night, they were going to announce AJ Wilder for Wembley. I'm convinced. I'm convinced we're going to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see that fight. I mean,
he needs Wilder or hang him up now. He doesn't belong in a ring with AJ.
I think Joshua will absolutely obliterate him.
Joshua's got his feet back now too.
He's got his mojo back, and he's sort of steadily improving if you can do that as a 30-odd-year-old, former world champion. But Joshua seems to have found a sort of renewed confidence, and I think he would smash Wilder to bits. Absolutely. Last night. I mean, don't get me wrong, Zhang is a very, very good elite world level heavyweight, but that wasn't the bronze bomber in there last night. That was a
shell of himself, for sure.
A shell of his former self. And it's sad to see, but yeah, I'd like to see him quit. He's made enough money. Sure.
Oh yeah, he's not doing too bad for himself. Zhang's in an interesting position now because obviously Wilder's probably going to hang them up, but a lot of the other top heavyweights are probably tied up. They mentioned Kabiel. I love that fight. He's in favourite Saudi. Maybe they can do.
That's a good fight.
They could do that on Bivol Beterbiev potentially on October the 12th in Saudi. Joseph Park is in an interesting position too. I interviewed Billy Nelson, obviously, the other day. He was calling for the Bacoli fight for Parker. I don't know what happened with that because he's having issues with Boxer promotionally. Zhang Parker too. I don't really think Parker should be taking that fight. I think he probably deserves a bigger crack. But I think Zhang Kabiel is the one personally. But what do you think?
I think I'm in agreement with you there. I think that's probably the realistic better option for Zhang. I don't really see any other fights out there. I know, like you said, Billy Nelson were calling for Bacoli, but no disrespect to Billy, he wants Martin to fight every heavyweight out there. I think he sort of puts his name in there with them all, and I think that itself would be a very good fight. I'd pick Bacoli to beat Zhang. I think.
I think be close.
I just think Martin's got faster hands. He'd get inside. I think he'd be able to maneuver past that jab, and I think Zhang is slowing down. He's 40, 41, 42?
Yeah,
he's knocking on. I think, unfortunately for him, this has come at the wrong time of his career. I mean, he's doing it. He's getting the wins, or he's certainly pushing the elites very close. But I think if he were 5 or 6 years younger, he could put a real run together. But I think he's got a couple of fights left in him. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so for sure. So that concludes the 5e fight. Finished 10-0 to Queensberry over Matchroom. Whitewash. Eddie was a good sport. I think they're on the same flight earlier, and Frank's giving him
I've just seen that.
So
do you know what? Eddie and Frank, out of all this, seem to bounce. I could listen to them do a podcast. I think they bounce off each other. Frank's his dad's generation, but they've never sport. They didn't like each other and blah blah blah. But they seem to the personalities seem to gel, and I think it's
for sure.
It was all taken in really good spirits, and it was. They sat next to each other, and there was a lot of back and forth banter, and I like it.
It was great. Yeah, the dynamic of the whole thing was brilliant. Just a couple of takeaways from myself. Obviously, being an MMA fan like yourself, it was such a pleasure to have a full night of boxing, a stacked card. World Championship fights on at 8 o'clock. I know it's not feasible and the money's not in it for normal boxing fight nights, but Jesus, that was absolutely phenomenal. Having such a
one of the best cards. I mean, if it's not the card of the year, then it certainly should be up there. You don't see many boxing cards. I don't think we'll see one unless they do another sort of 5v5.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, 5 or 6 fights leading up to the main card are prospects versus journeymen, or 70 30 fights, whereas last night, most of those fights were 50-50 fights.
There were
there were no gaps, there were no other than for me, and this is going to sound horrendous, but the Bivol fight was sort of I thought
it was strange positioning. It was very strange positioning, almost kind of like one of those that would suck the energy out the crowd if there even was any energy in the crowd, kind of thing. And it's not Bivol's fault or Sinhad's fault. I think. And Eddie Hearn said that he wanted the 5 fights in a row, but I'm assuming it was Turkey Al-Sheikh's decision around the scheduling. He's really high on Bivol, obviously, so can't blame him on that. But seeing the promoters work together, that just shows you obviously what we've been missing for all those years. Some of Frank's best against some of Eddie's best. Obviously, Frank's came out on top in that situation, but seeing the crossover fights, that is more of that, please.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the fact that it went so well and it was so well received, I think it's inevitable that they'll have to do something again, or it'll certainly make it easier moving forward to put their fighters, maybe not another 5v5, but I think we can now have, championship fights, and it'd be a lot easier for these guys to negotiate some of their guys against each other now, because they've done, this night has been so successful. Doesn't necessarily have to be in Saudi. I believe now that this has established a working relationship and partnership moving forward. I think we'll see a lot more cross shows. I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to sit down and watch it again.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Just for the actual state of boxing at the minute, to actually had a look and thought about it earlier on this morning. The last 5 or 6 weeks, we've had Canelo Munguia, Inoue versus Neri, Loma Kambosos, Fury Usyk, Taylor Catterall, and the 5v5. What the place that boxing's in right now, it's on fire, isn't it?
Strong, really strong.
And then you look at June the 15th. June the 15th as well. You got Tank against Frank Martin, Billum Smith.
I can't believe that's here already. I thought about that yesterday. I was reading something and I thought, oh damn, that's in a couple of weeks.
I know.
I think this Saudi partnership has enabled them to put on some of the bigger fights, because the Saudis don't have to worry about gate revenue and sponsorship revenue. They can just put shows on. They can pay the money. Whereas previously it's been about, is it a marketable fight? Are we going to make any money from the gate? Have we got enough in sponsor? And that's stopped and retreated. And we've lost some of the, some matchups over the years have never been made because of money.
Yeah.
And cross promotion and stuff. Whereas all that's out the window now. Turks sort of got the two kids and said, right, stop it. We're working together like a teacher with two naughty kids. He's making them work together, and it's worked. Like you said, well, I've just seen a clip of Frank and Eddie on the same flight home, bantering each other, and Frank's mocking Eddie over the 5-0, and Eddie's embracing it and sort of leaning into it. Boxing's in a stronger position for me than it's ever been.
For sure. It's funny you mentioned that point. Obviously, fights not happening. For me, Fury Usyk wouldn't have happened without this, and I think that's universally accepted.
I agree.
Wilder AJ all them years ago didn't happen for this exact reason. When Wilder had the WBC and AJ had the 3 other belts, that should have been an undisputed fight. 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, whenever that was the case, that would have happened today if it was today, for sure. But at least now we're finally getting the fights that we all deserve as the consumer.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's exciting times. The fights that people want now, there's no excuses for them not to be made, and if they're not made, the reason is because the fighter doesn't want the fight.
Yeah,
there's no excuses now. Turkey and his team have got the wherewithal, the means, the money to put on any fights. The purses are there. I'm assuming everybody last night made a career high purse. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Maybe Wilder didn't, because he's fought Fury for sort of 20, 30, 40 million. But other than that, I think everybody will have made a career high purse. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they've got that endless pots of money, we're going to see some massive fights moving forward.
For sure, yeah. Cannot wait to see what's coming. So before we wrap up, mate, I'm going to ask you about a couple of bits of news this week. We've pretty much covered, I guess, there's going to be a June 25th press conference to announce the Wembley card. We pretty much know what's coming there. We discussed earlier about, the potential of a new A, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, on August 3rd for the Crawford Madrimov card, Tim Tszyu hasn't been cleared after his bad cut against Fundora last time out. So he's out the Sergio Ortiz fight. Turkey has come out and said that they're, wait for something big. They're going to rejiggle the card. So obviously a big replacement's coming in for Ortiz to fight. What do you think of that?
Who do you think's coming in?
It's rumoured that Errol, obviously Spence is meant to be fighting Fundora, isn't he? But there's rumours that Spence is the front runner. But who can they bring in? I know.
I mean, Spence, I'd watch it. I'm not sure if Spence is going to be any any different. I think Crawford sort of highlighted some flaws in Errol Spence. It was apparently a bad orbital break as well.
Yeah, it's the same as Wilder. You know, Spence has pretty much said it's going to be his last fight. I think, you know, it's not a good mindset to be going in with, is it?
No, don't do it for me. Just don't do it. So if you're half out the door, just walk out the door, mate.
Exactly. No doubt, though, that there's going to be a big blockbuster announcement on that card. And, you know, he's going to want to, especially with it being the first Riyadh season card in the US, they're going to want to make it a really, really big one.
Special card.
Yeah, cannot wait for Crawford Madrimov as well. And
I can't myself.
Fury Usyk 2 was announced, as we discussed earlier, December the 21st. What do you think about that? Can Fury pull it off in the rematch? Do you believe? Will he change corner, make adjustments?
I mean, what can he do different?
Yeah.
What can he do other than maybe pressing him a little bit more? But Usyk's feet are too quick.
Just think his demeanour looked off, didn't it, all week? He was definitely intimidated, whether he'll say it or not. Visibly.
I think Tyson was intimidated by the fact that Usyk wasn't intimidated.
Yeah.
None of the team were intimidated.
Even right over to him, and Usyk's just blank stare straight over. You know,
not bothered. Yeah. I mean, one of the coldest things I've ever seen is the photograph when Usyk was at AJ ringside.
With his hood up. Yeah,
that's going mad. They're all going mad around him. Just
stalking his prey.
Yeah. And you could see all week that Tyson Fury will try to get under his skin, I mean, his dad did that headbutted that.
Yeah. He's got to get his dad out the corner, hasn't he, to be fair? You know, that's
I'd said to somebody that a couple of days before, we were on about his dad, and I said, it doesn't make no difference. He won't be anywhere near when it comes fight night. And
I couldn't believe it.
Talking over everybody, and I thought, why is he there?
His dad's not normally in the corner, though, is he? If I remember right, that was like...
No, he's not a boxing coach. He's not a boxing coach. As much as he'll say he's a boxing coach, he's not a boxing coach. And some of the stuff that he was saying to him, I thought, wrong. You winning, just do this, just do this.
Yeah, sending him out in the 12th round. Yeah, sending him out in the 12th round, saying you just need to keep behind the jab, you're ahead.
Tyson needed to put it on him from sort of round 9 on. He was losing he was losing, especially with a knockdown. For me, he was losing the fight. That knockdown was enough to sort of widen the gap. So Tyson needed to put it on him. I think when he got him hurt in round 6, he should have just put it on him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know, he stung him twice in round 6, and Usyk looked shaky as he went back to the corner as well. And then, you know, I think he broke Fury's nose in the 8th, and then obviously we know what happened in the 9th. But unbelievable fight. You know, cannot wait.
Fantastic fight. I can't see it going any different.
Yeah, I think Usyk will stop him. You know, unfortunately, I hope Fury
would have stopped him. He would have stopped him. Let's be real. That Tyson was gone. The referee saved him in that round. I don't know why. I don't know why he just let him. You know, can't continue. And I can't see unless Usyk doesn't turn up. That's the only way I could see Tyson maybe clipping him and hurting him and stopping him. But I think it goes pretty much the same way in the rematch. I think Usyk will either win a points decision or he'll stop him later on, because Usyk now knows he really can hurt him. Yeah, and he might just step on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely that edge now. You know, Fury, you know, might be more alert this time. You know, whatever it may be, but I think Usyk's just that good. He's just, you know, when he was the man taking center ring and, you know, walking down the bigger guy by 40 odd pounds and, you know, 4 or 5 inches of height, whatever it is, you know, his feet are just that good that, you know, he'd just bamboozle anybody, but absolutely incredible. Before I let you go, mate, any appetite for Adrian Broner, Blair Cobbs this Friday night?
None whatsoever. Unfortunately, Adrian Broner is always going to be the nearly man. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. When he came through, I was so excited by his skill set. And I think, unfortunately, as happens with a lot of fighters, they start to believe their own hype. They don't train as much. They want to be rappers. They want to do the parties. They want to wear the bling. And I think he got found out. Anytime he's boxed an elite level fighter, he's lost. And I think he's dragging it out too long. I don't know whether he needs the money or whether he seriously believes that he can make an impact at 147, which I don't believe he can. I don't think he beats any of the top 10 at 147. I just don't. I don't believe he's a 147-pound fighter anyway. I think he's a 135.
Yeah,
really, 135.
Just doesn't want to make it, mate.
No, he's lazy.
Doesn't want to put it
in. And I won't be staying up to watch anyway. I'll watch the highlights in the morning. But the fact that is he promoted by Don King?
Don King is promoting the show.
That shows you how desperate he must be to fight. Because
I wonder if he's paid Daniel Dubois yet.
We're gonna, Well, as he paid Bernard Hopkins, never mind Daniel Dubois from the 90s. I wouldn't trust Don King to walk one of my dogs, let alone promote one of my fights. The guy is a Hall of Fame boxing promoter, blah, blah, blah. Guy's a scumbag. No. He does not pay his bills.
It's amazing he's still around.
I can't believe he gets licensed to put fights on still. But I've got little or no excitement for Adrian Broner's next fight, mate.
For sure. Completely agree. Anything further to add, Jason?
No, I'm going to get some sleep today. It's been a long night. I'm going to rewatch now. And then, it's been an absolutely amazing weekend for fights. It was unreal. Phenomenal. Can't wait for him to do it again.
Yeah, we've been treated this last little while for sure. Jason, we really appreciate you coming on today, mate. Thanks, very kind of you to give up so much of your time.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, look forward to doing it again down the line with you.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Perfect. Have a good one, mate. Thanks very much.
You, man. Take care. See you. Bye. Bye-bye.